configure IPv4 on Cisco devices, I have a lab that I'm gonna start showing you guys very soon. So I have a complete lab where I have designed a three-tier network, and I will provide you the whole lab, whole configurations, and the whole guides and notes, so that you can practice yourself and you can master CCNA in a couple of weeks, and everything will start making sense. So how to configure IPv addresses. So you can see that. Let me explain it to you. Let me just explain one. So we are assigning an IPv address, IPv4 address on a router. So what happened here is, router, we press enable. So you enable the router by typing this when you log into the router, and then you go to the configuration terminal where you can start configuring, and then you type interface, and you say interface number. So the physical interface, there is a gigabit port, and then I have assigned an IP address of these to that gigabit port, and as it's a /24 network, because the first three octets represent the network address. And so the if the last octet of the host portion starts with 1, it's usually the default gateway. The default gateway in a /24 network, slash sorry dot 1 is always the default gateway, and dot 255, the last address, is the network address. So that when you send an address to that address, when you send a message to that address, all the devices get it. So in this network, mostly 192.168.10.255 will be the broadcast address, and then it's no shutdown. So when you say no shutdown, the router will turn that port on, and then you exit the configuration, and that's it. And then you type this command to check what you have configured. Okay, so this is the configuration for assigning an IP address to a switch, enabling or going to the interface, basically going to a VLAN. You can see interface VLAN 1, and it's assigning an IP address to the VLAN 1. In real life, we should not be using VLAN 1, but yeah, but it's trying to separate it or something, and then it will excluded from the DHCP server. I don't know, whatever, but this is just for basic knowledge. All right, so this is how you can use the commands to configure your IPv4 configuration. So let's just try some. Show IP interface brief. So when you type this, displays interface status and IP addresses. So when you type this, let's just say I want to log into this switch. Bear with just one sec. Let's say I want to log into the switch, and I want to check all the uh, status of the interfaces and their IP addresses. So all I have to do is show IP interface brief. So previously you need to press enable, right? Yep. Oh, sorry, not this. There's a spelling mistake. So enable. Yep. And then you do configuration terminal. I'm just going to use short form. So configuration terminal, tcon for configuration, t for terminal. So this is how you configure and stuff. So I'm not going to be configuring anything. I'm just going to come out, exit. So I'm already in the enable section. So all I need to do is type show IP interface brief, and you can see that these are all the physical ports within that switch, and it tells you if there isn't any IP address assigned to any of those ports. But you can see that none of them have been assigned, because it's a layer 2 switch and we haven't created any VLAN yet, so you can't see any of them. But later on, when we go further into this topic, everything will start making sense. Okay, let's try another one. The next one's called show running configuration. Displayed configured IP settings. It shows all the settings for IP, internet protocol settings. All right, let's just check show running and then I will use conf. Oh, sorry. So I need to type the whole running and then configuration. Okay, and then all right, now you can see that it has, for all the ports, it will have all the configuration that has been saved in the switch's memory. That will always load. You can see that information here. Okay, ping to test connectivity. So you just use ping, and then use the use the let's say you want to ping your default gateway with the router, so you can type the router's IP address and you can check if it's working or not. All right, now let's say trace route, ping and trace route. So what we can do is, let's just do some pinging using a computer. One second. So let's just say ping 8888. So this is how you can check the so we are practicing the commands now. So unreachable, whatever. So you get, this is how basically, these are the commands to check and configure IPv4 addresses. Trace route, if you just say, let's say trace route, and then uh, let's say trace route, and then I say I want to trace how we get our domain name, DNS server 8.8.8. I think this is not the correct one. I think it's on Windows, it's just a bit different. Hold on a second. 8.8.8.8. Yep. So it shows you shows the path packets take through the network. So it goes from it goes to this IP address first, and the next one. So all those different routers that it's taking place, etc. Show interface, then you can see show detail interface static, so you can check them. Common IPv4 addressing errors: wrong subnet mask, duplicate IP addresses. Go through them if you have any questions. All right. Now let's just quickly try some of the questions to uh, get a good understanding of this topic. So, what is the maximum number of usable host in a 20/24 network? It, because the total available values is 256, because you count zero. So if you add all the values, you get 255 plus 1, sorry, plus 0, so you get 256 total addresses. And then we have to always deduct two addresses, because we need one address for network and we need one address for broadcast. So you have a total of 254 addresses. So 256 minus 2, you have 254 addresses. So we're talking about /24. So which IPv4 address is considered a private address? So you can see this 8.8.8 is not in the private address range. 172.32.01, 172.32, it's three up. We can only use up to 3.1, so it's not a private IPv4 range. 1.1 is not anywhere there. 192.168.1.10, 192.168.1.10, 1 is there, 10 is there, so it's within the range, so it's going to be this answer. Which command on a Cisco router displays all configured IP addresses on interfaces? Which command on Cisco router displays all configured IP addresses on interfaces? Show IP interface brief, because we're talking about interfaces. This is the running configurations on that's saved in the memory of that device. So all the running configuration, and we are only talking about IPv4 interface information. Yeah, it's correct. What is the subnet mask for 200/256 network? /256 is gonna be, if you're new to this, if it might be confusing if you don't know, but the answer is gonna be, so /24 is 255.255.255.0, and then /25 will be 255.255.255.128, So slash 26 will be 255.255.255 plus 128, 128 plus 64, which is 192. So the answer has to be 192. All right. So this is how you. So you need to know subnetting and converting binary in your head. This is when you can actually, like, everything will start making sense. So you need to master binary and converting. All right, how many subnets can you create from slash 24 network by borrowing 2 bits? Okay, so the network address is slash 24, and we are borrowing 2 bits, so it becomes slash 26. So each bit can represent two values, to and so we are borrowing 2, so 2 times 2, 4. So it has to be 4. So we can create 4 subnets in a slash 26 network with 64 total addresses but 62 usable addresses. Which address is used to communicate with all hosts in a subnet? So in a subnet means it's a let's say a VLAN, like a separate network within a network. So just to communicate, it has to be a broadcast addresses. So broadcast addresses are the last addresses, that basically the last address, which is usually the last address to send messages to all the devices, or all the devices within that network. So the broadcast addresses, whenever you see all hosts in a subnet, it's always broadcast. Remember this. Which formula calculates the number of usable hosts per subnet? I don't use any of the formulas because it's all in my head, and I have my own way of figuring out how I should be subnetting. I don't follow those formulas. So you, I have provided those formulas and how you can use those formulas to detect in this content. But if you have any questions, just leave a comment and I'll be happy to explain. But I think the answer should be, which formula calculates the number of usable hosts per subnet? So 2 to the power host, then minus 2, hold on a second, usable. So we are talking about usable host. So 2 to the power of number of host minus 2. This should be the answer. Yep. All right. Which type of address for IPv4 address is assigned to a device to allow internet communication? So private is for private communication within a local area network through router on a stick, ROAS, for different VLANs, or we using a layer 3 switch. So it's private IP address. This is what I've just explained. Loopback is once like a particular address that you can for testing. So this is something else. Link local. This is more to do with the IPv6 addresses. So internet communication is public IP. What is the default gateway used for in IPv4 configuration? So default gateway is the address of the router or the last device which is connected to the internet service provider. So default gateway address, which basically takes a local communication to the outside communication and then brings outside communication to the local area. So that's the default gateway. So to send package devices outside the local subnet, to assign IP addresses to, but in this scenario we are talking about VLANs in this case. So the default gateway for each VLAN is basically that, so in this situation basically it's a VLAN situation. So the answer has to be outside the local subnet, because devices within a VLAN, they can only communicate with each other. So to the VLANs to talk communicate with each other, they need IPv4 addresses as default gateway. So the answer is to send packets to devices outside the local subnet. What does CIDR notation slash 28 indicate? Slash 28 28 network bits and 4 usable hosts. Yes, 28 network bits. Okay, so slash 28 network bits is correct. So slash 28. When you see the slash and the number after the cider, it's the network address. So 28 is the network, not host. 20 host per subnet node. So we are talking about slash 28 network bits, 4 usable host bits. Yes, because an IPv4 address is 32 bits, so the first 28 bits are for network and the last 4 bits are for the host. So 28 plus 4, 32. So this should be the answer. Because the first, this one is in the host bits, it's the network bits. This one represents the network address, the network bits. So this should be the answer. So that's it. This is a tricky topic in CCNA, like subnetting and then converting IPv4 to binary and binary to IPv4, etc. So you need to do like researches, and then you need to practice, and also you need to ask questions. So if you have any if you're new to this, you will definitely have some problems in the beginning, but you need to ask questions and you should be able to figure it out. So if you practice for a couple of weeks, you can just master IPv4 addressing and subnetting. This is not rocket science, trust me. So thank you so much, and I will see you next time.